Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're talking to you about the Battle of Fort Donald Duck.
That's right, Johnny. It's a Civil War special. We've got a battle of Fort Donelson, not Donald Duck. Fort Donelson. Good old Donald.
Okay.
And it is a part of Grant's really first massive offensive campaign, and it breaks the back of the Kentucky defense, gets us down into Tennessee as our goal here.
Okay.
So
All right.
So let me-
this is U.S. Grant. He's
Grant, yeah.
not well known at this point. Is
Ooh.
that correct? He's not done a
no,
whole
he
lot.
he had a military career in the Mexican-American War. He retired
okay.
from the military career, and by retired I mean he got too drunk and was told, "Don't do that again." And then he continued to get drunk, and they're like,
That's
"Yeah,
right. Okay.
you're gonna be leave." And then he tried.
I'm making the connection.
Yeah, then he tried to operate some businesses that didn't work out so well, and tried to operate a farm that didn't work out so well, and then the war happened. So now he's back.
That's right. Okay, so he is a known general at this point. Hasn't done a whole lot in the Civil War.
No.
This is his first big battle in the Civil War, and we are in Kentucky.
We are
trying to get.
No, we're in Kentucky. We're
In
trying to get down to
Kentucky,
Tennessee. So let me set the stage
Okay.
for you, Johnny. So it's early 1862. Lincoln becomes the first president to issue a direct command to his troops, which hasn't been done before. This is War Order Number 1, which essentially mandates that an all-out advance.
Pretty dope.
Yeah, it's War Order Number 1, meaning that there's definitely more coming, and that he wants an all-out offensive on all fronts. So everybody's to move and to pressure the Confederates on all fronts.
Okay.
Grant takes it upon himself as commander of the Cairo Department in Illinois to assault the forts protecting Tennessee. He actually asks General Halleck, who's the head of that area, like, "Hey, can I do this?" And, "Well, if you think you can do it, do it." And took Fort Henry without even having to have his troops on the scene because they just used the gunboats and obliterated it.
Yeah.
Worked out well
and then,
for them.
and then that's one where they just kind of went running on it, right? Like they
They pulled their troops to Fort Donald.
fully set up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they knew they didn't have a chance to really defend that, so they pulled all their troops to Fort Donelson, and the fight that was there at Fort Henry was just a delaying action of more than anything else.
Yeah, make sure they can get set up in their real home base down in Fort Donaldson, and then hopefully be able to defend that position instead of losing troops at Fort Henry.
Yes.
Beforehand.
At the end of the first week of February 1862, he successfully captures Fort Henry, and with Buell, General Buell of the Union Army, over in Bowling Green, Kentucky, putting up pressure there. There was also Union victory at Mill Springs, Kentucky. The Confederate Kentucky line at this point is broken. With Mill Springs broken, Fort Henry fallen, and Buell pressuring Bowling Green, their Kentucky defensive line is no longer a viable defense. The days leading
Now, sorry, quick. Do you think that those successes came before Lincoln's order, right, to attack on all fronts?
Mill
Or was that
Springs
because of his
came.
order?
I'm pretty sure Mill Springs came after.
Okay, but in any case, it seems like that kind of destruction through Kentucky has started to give the Union some hope that they can actually start to move on all fronts. And really constrict.
And
make their land size smaller as well as everything else.
And the week leading up to the Battle of Fort Donelson, also the Confederates have a massive loss at Roanoke Island in North Carolina when Burnside comes in there and takes over that area and captures 2,000
So at this
Confederates.
point, everything's coming up Union right now.
Everything's coming up Union in 1862. It's the Union year. The days leading up to the battle, the Union continued to threaten positions by cutting railroad lines leading into Fort Donelson, cutting off their supplies, cutting off reinforcement opportunities for the fort. On February 7th, Confederate General Johnson, who's the overall command in this region, had a council of war at the Covington Hotel in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where he decided that his great defense of Tennessee, that being the Kentucky line, was kind of a sham at this point. It was already broken, and so what do we do, guys?
Not doing their job too well there. So now you protect the Tennessee border,
right? So he decided to abandon western Kentucky altogether. He moves what available troops he can from Columbus, Kentucky, to Fort Donelson, and he also takes troops. General Beauregard from Bowling Green. He recalls him to come back. He wanted Beauregard to take overall command of Fort Donelson, but Beauregard declined. He said, "I kind of have a sore throat, and I don't. I don't want that."
There are so many generals that use it like a sickness excuse, or maybe there's also a lot of disease and shit going around.
Yeah, there could be that.
There seems to be a lot of use of, I'm not feeling well, so I can't command this army today. And these are rough and tough generals, right? Like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, he's bringing
whiskey about it, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, drink some whiskey, yeah, and be fine. So the troops right now at Fort Donelson are numbering 5,000, but between what was brought over from Fort Henry and the other areas, they do get it up to just over 16,000 troops here at Fort Donelson before the battle begins. The rationale here
is that... It's a good-sized battle.
It's a good-sized battle, yeah. This is actually, I think, might be our biggest... casualty-wise, it's definitely our largest one that we have so far. The rationale here is that the loss of Donelson is going to give Union troops unrestricted access to the middle of Tennessee, including the very important manufacturing city of Nashville. Nashville's not that far from Fort Donelson. And it is one of the only manufacturing centers in the West for the Confederacy, so you really probably shouldn't lose that. Man.
Yeah, I mean, you would think it, like, you get that, you take it over, or whatever, you cut their supply, and then now you have that facility to manufacture. You think that would be pretty much it. As far as
in the
West,
right?
Like that, that's what they have to be considering and thinking.
Yeah, to lose Nashville is a massive loss. Can't overstate that enough. It is a big loss. This battle is very key to the whole start of the Western plan for the Union.
And again, for those who aren't following, Western means Midwest.
Yeah, that means
by today's standards, we
Kentucky,
are in
Indiana,
Kentucky, St. Louis, all that stuff. Not
the frontier.
West.
Yeah, not the frontier. Johnson will choose, like I said, Beauregard to command. Beauregard just says, nope, got a sore throat, not going to do it. So command at Donelson is going to fall to John B. Floyd. And by the way, Johnny, all these soldiers up to this point, can you guess their occupation, all the generals that I've talked about so far? You know, Grant, Johnston.
Oh, I mean, they've got to be either career military or businessmen.
Ding, 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 Johnny. Career military. Every one of them is career military. But command at Fort Donelson is going to fall to John B. Floyd, who is the only non-career military man in this group. He's also a cousin-marrying individual, quite literally married his cousin. And he's...
I mean, we are...
corrupt politician who, right before the war kicked off, was under investigation for... illicit activities he did as the Secretary of War under President Buchanan.
Fantastic. So before he decided to become a general in the Confederate Army, what did he? He was a very corrupt politician. He went for Congress, and he's like, you know what? I'll bet there's some corruption I can do out in the military. Yep. And all of a sudden, he's in charge of 16,000 men at Fort Donelson with the Union coming down on him.
Yeah, what could go wrong? He's going to face off his 16,000 men against U.S. Grant's Department of Cairo, consisting of 24,000 men and 6 gunboats. 6 gunboats that are going to be down on the rivers.
So 50% more men and gunboats.
And gunboats, yes, and gunboats. That's a pretty good force.
I'd probably be putting some career military folks in charge of this out if I were a Confederate President Trader, President Davis here.
On the 6th, Grant is going to telegraph General Halleck after taking over Fort Henry, and he's going to say, hey, I'm going to move on to Fort Donelson, capture it, and be back to Fort Henry by the 8th. He grossly fails to meet that arbitrary self-imposed deadline. Grant, give yourself some... Like, the roads were muddy getting into Fort Henry. Do you really think you're going to march to Fort Donelson and back by the 8th? No.
I mean, that's probably all they could do is march there and back, without any fighting or anything else. And maybe.
Maybe. But the stage is set, Johnny. Grant's troops wouldn't actually start their attack, and by attack I mean movements, until the 12th of February. Grant is going to move his army down 2 separate 5-mile-long roads leading to Fort Donelson itself. He's going to be delayed through Confederate cavalry screening actions conducted by a Nathan Bedford Force, future head of the KKK. This fighting
so they're doing what? They're just like sending small packs to slow them down, basically, and to annoy them?
Yes, the major part of this fighting by force was conducted between General Buckner and Union General McClernand's forces. Buckner sees McClernand's forces. So I'm going to engage in this brief skirmish here, and by brief I mean very brief, because Buckner realizes that he is horribly outnumbered and pulls his troops back to Fort Donelson.
Now, was this? Did they approach them kind of head on like a traditional, or are they doing that kind of warfare
they're
where they're hiding in the trees and just taking pot shots?
It's kind of a cross,
cheap shots and all that.
Yeah, it's a cross between both. They're set up in skirmishing lines, so they're not like shoulder to shoulder. They're spread out a little bit more, but they're not really like this isn't like the Revolutionary.
But they're not hiding in the trees and picking off a few and then trying to escape.
No, not that.
They're legit battles, but just to slow them down.
While all this is going on, the USS Carondelet, it's the first gunboat to arrive and instantly begins shelling the fort to test the fort's defenses.
Yeah.
Before retreating to wait for the rest of the Navy, and it kind of retreats to wait for the rest of the Navy because it is super cold outside, and the temperature drops down to the negatives, and it's an icy, rainy drizzle that's coming down. So they're like, screw this crap, don't want to deal with that. Bye.
Oh, and with that type of weather too, like that, the rainy drizzle and the cold weather, that just, you're getting a sheet of ice now that you have to march over and through and across, and I'll bet there's some twisted ankles.
I guarantee you there's a couple.
Sprained wrist when people fall down on their, hind end.
By the evening of the 12th, Grant has arrived and set up his headquarters up in the Widow Crisp's house. This is Widow's house on the Union left, which is the Confederate right. They set up as much of a semicircle around Fort Donelson as they can. Fort Donelson itself has, there's a fort, and then outside the fort there are Confederate entrenchment positions as well.
Mm-hmm.
But at this
point, I imagine they have all those little things built with the tree posts or whatever.
Yep. The Union has effectively put the fort under a semi-siege at this. They don't have it completely surrounded. They don't have it completely cut off of all supplies, but it is majority of it cut off.
I mean, they obviously they have the rivers with all their gunboats. They've cut off the trains entering into it. They're coming down a couple of the roads. There's probably like a back road or something that
there's some back roads that the Confederates can get
some supplies, but probably not a whole lot.
No,
and not quickly.
Not quickly.
For sure.
The Union left is going to be commanded by C.F. Smith, and the right by Clarnard. I'm going to butcher his name all day long. McClernard. McClernard, maybe. It's McClernard. McClernard. It doesn't matter.
I don't know.
Now, while all this is going on the 11th, Confederate General Floyd sends Buckner to relay a message to General Pillow, who's also at Fort Donelson, to release all the troops underneath Buckner to operate south of the river to harass Union supply lines. So the day before the Union moves out, he's like, I want these guys over here to harass Union supply lines. Confederate General Pillow sees this as a very stupid move, as it would put the fort to even fewer men to defend it, and they're already outnumbered, and no, this is dumb, don't do that. Yeah. So he leaves the fort. He leaves the fort, puts Buckner in charge of the fort, says, hey, look, you do your thing here, take over command while I go and talk to General Floyd and knock some sense. This guy doesn't know. He's a politician. What does a politician know about commanding a battle? I'm going to go knock some sense into this guy.
Yeah. Maybe tell him spreading our already under numbered troops thin is not the best idea.
Effectively, by Pillow leaving the fort and putting Buckner in charge of the fort, it stops Buckner from taking his troops and going south. And while Pillow's out there, the battle begins. The skirmishes happen underneath Buckner. That's why Buckner pulls his troops all the way back, and Pillow has to run all the way back to the fort and hey, sorry, I managed you. Too quick.
Yeah, you guys. Did you guys hold everything down here for a little bit while I was gone? No. How are we looking now that I'm back?
He does get, like I said, mission is sort of successful here because Buckner is forced to stay in the fort. He won't leave the fort after that. Yeah. And Johnson, the head guy, orders Floyd to send any troops south of the river back to Fort Donelson. Hey, I don't know what the hell you were thinking, but put those guys back in the fort because.
Now, and they get the messages to the other troops. They just send a fast rider out to them, I imagine?
Telegraphed and
drum corps or something?
Yeah, telegraph and riders.
And they have telegraph
communication
between them. Okay.
Yep. On the 13th, Grant is going to order all of his troops, to all the troops, no general engagements be provoked until the Union gunboats could arrive. So basically he's telling all his men, listen, we're setting up defenses. We're going to siege them out. Yeah. Don't do anything until we get all the gunboats here. And General C.F. Smith is going to ignore this by sending 2 of his 4 divisions against the Confederate right. He was like, the hell with this, I'm going to go ahead and move on. Okay.
I mean, come on. All you got to do is wait for your big old boats.
Big old boats.
They're coming. They'll get there.
They'll be here, yeah. Casualties are light. No gains to be had, but they were able to harass the Confederate position through the night, so at least it keeps them occupied, I guess. At the same time,
kept them up, made them tired for the next day, right? They can't sleep if they're getting shelled.
At the same time, McClernand, he's going to send several of his divisions to take a Confederate battery called the Reedon No. 2 Battery. This will cause Colonel Morrison to be wounded, and the attack being repulsed, and several Union troops burning to death when Confederate artillery sets the fields on fire. So...
Oh, they just burned their fields.
Well, not intentionally, but yeah, the artillery fire.
Oh, their artillery burned their fields. After all the freezing rain, I mean... Yeah. Good God.
Oops.
And then we had troops burned to death in fire in the middle of a field because they were wounded or couldn't get out. And then, God. What? I mean, think of a worse way to go.
Right?
You get shot in the leg and then burned to death in a field when it's negative temperature. Like, what?
At least you're warm for a sec.
At least you didn't drown. I don't...
Grant, seeing what's going on, and that his troops completely ignored his orders, he's going to send the USS Carondelet back into position to provide at least a diversionary fire. Fire from the fort would actually hit the Carondelet, but not seriously enough to take it out of the fight. Instead, the gunboat would just back downriver just enough for its long guns to be able to reach the fort, but the fort's guns not to be able to reach it.
So they just stuck their hand out on the head of a short person and said, "Try to hit me."
Yes, exactly. After the Union gunboat arrives, McClernand is going to attempt to stretch his troops all the way to the river, but realizes he actually doesn't have enough soldiers to do that effectively.
Can't quite reach there. What if they all touched like fingertips?
Hands across America.
Yeah, like did a real big thing.
Yeah. So he asked Grant, he's like, "Can we get some more people?" So Grant telegraphs Lew Wallace, who's over in Fort Henry, said, "Hey, bring your division up." Or your divisions up, and they start the march that night.
Okay.
At 1 a.m. on the 14th of February, General Floyd
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day. General Floyd is going to hold a war council of the Confederate generals, and they all agree that they were proper fucked and that the fort needed to be abandoned and all troops moved to Nashville because if the goal here is to defend Nashville, this fort ain't going to get the job done.
Maybe.
We are sitting
ducks. We're just going to risk all those 16,000 men. We're going to have a lot of casualties. We're going to lose the fort anyway, and then have less of a defense for Nashville. So they're basically saying just let them have it. That's not the important bit. Nashville is.
But at this point, they're effectively surrounded, so they got to break out to get the troops gone. So General Pillow is going to give the honor of leading the breakout attempt and begin readying his troops on the 14th. But right before the assault begins, on the morning of the 14th, a Union sharpshooter hits his staff officer, one of his staff officers.
Wait.
His aide, yeah. A Union sharpshooter.
Okay, Union Heart shoots a Confederate aide.
Yeah, shoots a Confederate aide, yeah.
Not his own aide.
No, not his own aide.
Just say, because how'd he get that job?
No. Right, I'm on board. He shoots one of General Pillow's aides, and this, usually General Pillow was, by all reports, a very confident attacker, but at this, he just, watched the guy next to him get shot by a sniper, and he went, yeah, we need obviously we're not going to have a surprise attack here. They know we're coming. They just shot this
quick
dude.
Question about that sharpshooter. Why did you choose the aide?
Yeah. Why not the general? Yeah, right.
Maybe
he was aiming for the general and just happened to hit the aide.
And
maybe that's
had
what
some wind or something.
Had some wind. Wind kicked up.
A lucky bad shot.
A lucky bad shot. So he says he wants to delay until the next day to reevaluate, redo. It's not a surprise attack at this point. We need to stop and hold off and reevaluate.
And he's probably a bit shook.
And he's a bit shook. That's really what it boils down to.
He is a human being who just watched another human being next to him get shot by a sniper.
General Floyd was pissed at this, but it's kind of too late of a decision to change at this point because when Pillow didn't commit his assault in the morning, it's like, all right, well, it's too late now because Lew Wallace's troops have arrived and reinforced the center line. By noon, the Union has completed that surrounding of the fort, or at least the semicircle surrounding of the fort, and by 2:30, General Foote's flotilla, or Admiral Foote, I guess, it's flotilla of gunboats, they're going to arrive. Grant instantly orders them to assault the fort's batteries. Foote says, can we do some reconnaissance first? And Grant said, no. Assault now, go, because Grant's remembering Fort Henry and thinks, I just send the gunboats in, they'll shooty bang bang, problem solved.
Yeah, they run away and everything's fine. And so they wanted to go and see what type of maybe cannons they had set up,
what their range was, how close they should get, or
how many people were there. And he said, nah, they'll just run again if we just flex our boat muscles.
At 3 p.m., Foote begins to open fire and flex his boat muscles, which is responded by effective fire from the Confederate batteries, so much so that by 4:30, the Union gunboats had to withdraw.
So an hour and a half or so.
And that's it.
And the boat's lost.
Foote himself is going to be wounded, ironically, in his foot. Can't make that shit up. And his flagship wheelhouse was...
Sir, what's the matter? Mine foot. Yes, I know your name is Foot. What is wrong with you?
My foot.
There's
an Eddie Izzard.
Who are those guys? Who's on first?
Who's on first? Oh, that guy. Yeah. So his flagship's wheelhouse is actually destroyed in this process. The USS St. Louis then is like floating helplessly downriver because like where the steery is gone. So.
Well, I mean, everybody knows river currents are nice and consistent. Just keep a boat just floating on straight.
So it's floating. Yeah,
it's definitely not going to bounce into a bank and crash.
Foote also sees the USS Louisville disabled, and the USS Pittsburgh begins to take on water. Because of the 500 rounds that the Confederates fired, the St. Louis is going to take 59 hits. The Carondelet takes 54 hits, the Louisville takes 39 hits, and the Pittsburgh takes 20 hits. So finally, somebody in this if you've never watched any of our other Civil War battles or never watched any of our other like Civil War in hindsight, they're finally figuring out how to actually aim these damn cannons and make some hits.
Someone learned something. Learned something. Either that or it's just dumb luck and happened to be they're just like max distance, go, and it was just right where it needed to be.
This leads to embarrassingly no Confederate casualties by the Union gunboats on this day. The previous day there were a few, but not on this day. And the bombardment led to 8 Union dead and 44 wounded. So for the casualty ends of that's not too bad. Yeah. But you do have a lot of damage to your entire fleet here, so that's not great.
Yeah, and still 8 sets of parents getting bad news.
The Union still does control the river. There's no Confederate, boats on the river to really stop the gunboats, but.
At this point, we have to be considering building one of those fancy little metal boats out for a river,
we've already built it. Yeah, that's already built. It's just not here.
All right.
Yeah, it's already built.
Yeah,
it's already been
launched.
It's
just not there yet. Okay.
Yeah, it's just not.
All right.
Not here.
We need one for rivers too. We gotta just all the boats made out. Just all of them.
Just make all of them out of metal.
Little turret on top, couple guns, indestructible.
You can blame Grant for this initial naval battle.
I will.
Buffoonery because he ordered them in without them letting them do proper reconnaissance, but you can't let Foote off the reins here because Foote's long guns on every one of those gunboats outranged anything that the Confederates had. So had he just went downriver just a little bit farther, he would have been fine. But instead, he got too close.
Yeah, which makes aiming easier, but at that point, you get to the end of your range and. I mean, it's a large target, right?
You're pretty, you're anywhere. You're large. Yeah, you're right there. That night, Confederate General Floyd, is gonna look around at his situation, say that the fort is still hopeless, and again, he's gonna order Pillow to lead a breakout attack at 5 a.m. on the 15th against the Union's weaker right flank, led by McClernand.
So early.
Clernard. Very early. Good news for Union troops here is that it's freezing outside, and nobody's really sleeping because it's freezing rain, and you can't. You're just trying not to die.
Well, no. Let's be fair. They probably have, at this time, according to movies I've seen, they've set up, big old tents with little fires in them and stuff, and heaters, and like all sorts of like.
Yeah, it's cold.
Our movies. Are you telling me?
Well, you're not entirely wrong.
Are you telling me most of them just had like little small tents? And they're still
Johnny. Yeah,
exposed?
The infantry are in dog tents if they even bother to set up the tents on the front line, which they probably didn't bother to set up on the front line. They're probably bushwhacking it here. And
I would have by now.
And even then. That small little tent.
The ground's wet, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's not. It's. You have a roof over your head. There's no. Yeah. There's no like ends, so you're not really. That's not helping.
Sleeping in a nice wet grounded wind tunnel, essentially.
Essentially, yeah. So the troops of the Union side aren't really. I'm gonna let that loud ass pass. So the troops of the Union side aren't really caught by surprise because they're pretty much already awake. But General Grant, he's kind of caught on surprise because he didn't expect a Confederate land attack, and he went to check on General Foote's foot. So he ordered all troops.
Yeah. He just wanted to see it, right?
Yeah, I think he just wanted to see it. He goes, Foote got shot in the foot. I got to see this.
Oh, come on. How bad is it? Is it mangled? Let me see it.
So he orders all of his troops to not conduct any assaults while he was gone, but he didn't put anybody in charge. Like he did, didn't nominate anybody specifically as second in command.
But shouldn't there already be a ad hoc by default?
Johnny, you haven't learned.
But nobody took that over. Yeah, I forgot everybody is learning about war right now as we.
It's just the circus. The Civil War was a circus. Nobody cares.
And what to do. And all right. What did it matter if somebody else was in charge? I guess is the real question we ought to be asking.
That's gonna be important here later. The whole we're still trying to figure out things because. In any case. Pillow's plan here is to push McClernand's troops away from Vynn's Ferry and Forge Road and then begin to move troops out of the fort down to Nashville with Buckner's lone regiment. Buckner was going to leave a regiment of the 30th Tennessee acting as the rear guard, a.k.a. the Suicide Squad, to prevent the Union one regiment against 24,000 guys is going to be nothing.
Did they draw straws or something? Like, who got picked? Like, cause my God, that's not the regiment to be on.
Remember they did draw straws in the Battle of the Crater. That's something they actually did do. They're like, who's going to be assaulted?
Yeah, that's probably what they did. Like, sorry, you all got to die.
The assault does commence around 5 a.m., and after 2 hours of heavy fighting, Pillow's able to push McClernand's back and begins to secure the roadways that he's wanting to. He doesn't have them secured yet, but he's beginning to push McClernand's troops back. By 8 a.m., McClernand has issued a general withdrawal. Basically, he's already running low on supplies and ammunition, wants to pull back to regather his troops to commit a counter-assault. He sends a request to Lew Wallace a little after 8 a.m. for assistance, who denies the request because Grant told him not to move or attack, and since there was no second in command, he had not have anybody to give him counter orders to Grant's order and said, well, Grant said not to attack, so I can't
so he attack. You're not my real mom, Dim?
You're not my real mom. You're not my supervisor. You can't tell me what to do.
You're not my real general. Maybe I should do something, but you're not going to tell me what it is.
McClernand is doing his best, but he's running really low on ammunition as well. Grant's ordnance department, us guys, we haven't quite figured out ordnance.
No. Yeah, why would you do to him?
We didn't quite figure out that it's important to put the reserves ammunitions right behind the front lines, so that if they needed ammunitions, it's right there.
Would you put a knucklehead?
Well, like a mile behind those lines, a little bit farther away, so we weren't getting it up in time. Yeah, that wasn't.
Could you?
Yeah,
I mean,
well, I didn't want the bullets to fall into the bad guys' hands, so you keep them. Oh.
So I mean, but you do want them to fall into the bad guys' bodies, which is easier if they're closer.
If they're closer, yeah, that's true. That's true. At this point, McClernand sends a second courier. Fucking cars today, man. At this point, McClernand sends a second courier who arrives to Lew Wallace in literal tears, saying that the right flank has turned, the whole army is in danger, and that's what it takes for Lew to send aid, an adult man crying. like we're all gonna die if you don't help us.
Okay, all right. Well, hold up. Let's pause here. You say an adult man.
It's a 16-year-old. It's probably
good chance this is a 16 to 20-year-old child.
Yeah, that's true. It probably was a 16-year-old
who just watched some people die
in front of
him. Is now rolling his way back to his boss and saying, "Oh, this is real, and it's getting realer, and now we're all going to die."
So Lew Wallace does send a brigade that got promptly flanked by General Pillow and had to slowly withdraw himself. So battle at this point, in the early hours of the 14th, isn't really going very well for the Union.
Yeah, they've had some blunders, but the good news is they have so many more people.
They do have so many more people.
So many more.
By 9:30 in the morning,
keep sending them.
9th and Bedford Forrest urges General Johnson to have all of his troops attack, but Johnson was like, I don't know, man, like, do you think we could do that? Like, do you think we have, like, I mean, I know we've got the initiative on our hands, but is that wise? So General Johnson orders...
If I'm Bedford Forrest, who ordered that, it'd be like, I didn't start a conversation with you about this.
I'm telling you.
I ordered you to do that. This is...
Well, Forrest is under Johnson, so he can't. No, Forrest is under Johnson. He can't. He can't. Johnson's the head.
So he is just making a suggestion.
He's making a suggestion.
Okay,
yeah, that's all he's doing. Making a suggestion. What Johnson does do is he orders a general meandering against all Union fronts. It's not just an all-out assault. Just
see what's happening.
Just start moving forward and see what happens. So 2 hours into the battle, General Pillow looks around and is like, shit, I'm by myself. Like, nobody else came. Nobody else helped. I'm making progress. I'm getting us an escape route, but, like, nobody's following behind me to leave, and nobody's protecting my flank, and I'm all alone. So he requests aid from General Buckner that says, hey, can you, that general meander that Johnson said to do, can you, like, speed it up a little bit? To like cover my flank.
Get him to a general jog or something. Perhaps. No, good God, this is like children playing any sports versus like today's tactics and generals. I would imagine being more professional. Like if we sent a single general from 2020 or whatever back to the Civil War to either side, like they would just dominate, right? Like it would be tactics would be so much should be better and more disciplined. But it's the troops, right? It's the training. It's disseminating that information to that number of people.
And to give credit to the Civil War, it's not like, yes, the telegraph exists, but it's not like the telegraph was like right at the front line. It's not like you have instant communication. You don't have radios. You don't have cameras. You don't have drones flying over the battlefield giving you
got drums and hot air balloons.
In real-time intel. Yeah, you do have drums and hot air balloons. So there is a little bit of that. But you know, this delay in the action by Buckner and Pillow like being on his own and having to stop for a second does give Lew Wallace and McClernand enough time to regroup and do their counterattacks. By 12:30, the Confederate assault stalls and ends when Lew Wallace's troops are entrenched on a ridge overlooking Wynn's Ferry, and Pillow attempts 3 separate times to assault his positions on that ridge and loses 3 separate times. Repulsed 3 separate times. Yeah. We try, and definition of insanity, and there it is. And Pillow's like, all right, the 4th time is stupid. So he withdraws.
Yeah, well, this is like when football coaches talk about like, it's 4th and 5 or whatever on the goal line, right at 4th and goal to go, and the coaches are like, "We had 3 chances and that didn't go well. What makes you think we're going to be able to do it on the 4th?" Like that's why they kicked the field goal or whatever. That's the same thing. It's like, we gave it 3 solid shots. What's going to be different next time?
Yep,
nothing.
Yep. And this entire time, by 12:30, in the afternoon, on the 15th, Grant is completely unaware that any thing is even like, oh shit, there's gun. So he's not even on the field. He's got to get back. When Grant finally does arrive, when Grant finally does arrive onto the battlefield, his first stop is to the Union left, to General C.F. Smith, and he orders that the 8th Missouri and the 11th Indiana boys! Side note, this is actually
boys.
This is one of the units that I reenact with. The 11th Indiana boys! They are Zouave troops, and they are to aid the Union right. They're to go down there and aid the Union right. When he arrives on the right, when Grant arrives on the right, he's angered by the disarray of the troops, and McLaren says, and I quote, "The army wants a head," a.k.a., you left and you didn't leave anybody in charge, so the army needs a head. Grant famously responds, and I quote, "It seems so, gentlemen. The position on the right must be taken." Thanks, Grant. That's the obvious. Our Union right fell, so we must retake the right. Thanks, Grant.
Yeah, obvious, dude. Sometimes you just got to say what needs to be done, and sometimes what needs to be done is obvious. Now, what kind of troops did you say the Indiana were?
They are Zouave troops, so they are.
Now, those are the goofy dressed ones, right?
Yeah, the goofy dressed ones with the fancy shirts and shit.
Pop a picture.
Pop a picture, little fucking jackets.
This is not out of the Civil War. These folks were straight out of 1300s Europe.
Yeah, these are very fancy. Yeah, these are stupid, but just goofy looking guys. Grant does remain calm over the very dire state of his army at this point, and he orders Foot to re-engage his navy. Says, "Hey, I know your foot hurts, but can you put on a crutch or something, re-engage your navy, this time safely out of the range of the Confederate guns. Look, use your long guns. Just give some distracting fire to get the Confederates' attention off us.
Do the thing that you should have done the first time, and maybe you'd still have 2 good feet."
Yeah. And noticing that one of the dead Confederate soldiers had 3 days worth of ration, Grant quickly realizes that, all right, this isn't an attack to break us. This is an attack to get themselves out. So they are clearly trying to leave, not trying to win this battle.
Because he only had 3 days rations?
No, because he had 3 days rations. If this was an assault against their positions to defeat them,
they wouldn't have
had 3 days. Yeah, they wouldn't have had that many rations.
But their job is to just stick around and
their job is to break a hole and run away. They've got all their supplies with them essentially.
Yeah, and carrying it and running.
Yeah, carrying it running. By 1:30 p.m., despite having a hole and an escape route that was punched through the Union lines, instead of emptying the fort, Pillow decides to order all of his troops back to the fort to resupply, even though they had 3 days worth of rations. Yeah, this
Boy, if I were a Confederate, I'd be mad.
I don't understand Pillow's move here. Neither does General Floyd or Buckner, who are pissed.
You know what? I'll bet he ate all his rations.
I bet he did. We'll go with that, Johnny. We'll go with that.
And he's like, you know what, guys? We got to go back. I need more.
Now, with General Floyd and Buckner pissed, there's nothing really that they can do because while all this is going on, C.F. Smith has begun his assault on the, on Fort Donelson, on the Confederate right, the Union left.
Yeah.
So Floyd and Buckner were forced to defend the fort in the best ways that they could. So, there goes our opportunity to leave.
Yeah. So now they're stuck.
Smith is going to quickly capture the outer entrenchments on the Confederate right flank and is able to hold them against multiple Confederate counterattacks. So, fort's now almost open for a direct assault.
Yeah.
On the Union right, the assault that was led by the 11th Indiana and the 8th Missouri Zouaves proves very successful in regaining any lost ground from the morning, as the Zouaves used what's a rushing tactic that they would become famous for, where they would run up and right before the Confederates would fire, they would drop on the ground.
That's clever.
And then get back up and keep running.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. And also look ridiculous doing it, which is probably going to distract them too. They'd be like, oh my god, somebody learned how to time travel, and now here we are.
In the 1300s with stupid fucking hats.
But they've got guns!
They got guns! Oh no! And that's cheating, Johnny. That's cheating. There's no honor in laying down before getting shot at.
I'll tell you what, I don't care about my honor if it means I live.
Neither do I. By nightfall, the Union controlled the Confederate entrenchments on the Union left, the Confederate right, and had restored their positions on the Union right. So even though the Confederates had opened an escape route, they failed to escape and failed to do any real push out. So all their efforts in the morning were completely and totally wasted. So
they're in a burning building and they open the front door and then nobody exited.
Yeah,
they just ran back upstairs.
They ran back upstairs.
You know what? We better save this house.
Nearly 1,000 soldiers on this day alone laid dead between both armies, with 3,000 wounded, and many, many, many Union and Confederate soldiers would freeze to death in the winter storm that came on the night of the 15th. The Union troops, for them, it's because they dropped their packs for the assault, extra weight, get rid of their weight, and the packs are what had their blankets
in it,
and extra great coats and that kind of stuff in it. So they dropped down to just their combat gear. And then didn't bring it back when the nightfall hit, and so we're out there exposed in the cold, freezing to death.
Yeah, doesn't matter how much cuddling up you do when it's in the negative temperatures and freezing rain, and you don't have any. And they're in wool?
Yeah, this
soaking.
If they're not wearing the great coat, this is what you got.
Water and ice, and now it's not doing what it ought to.
No, it's not. It's not. Wool's very good. Like when wool gets wet, it still acts as an insulator, so it can still keep you warm. But when it's a chunk of ice, there's no more insulation.
When that then freezes, yeah.
So this is why bedrolls actually become a very popular thing through the rest of the war. Especially with like the troops that fought here, they're like, I'm going to keep my bedroll on me, on my chest. So they wrap it around their chest and
all the time.
My blankets are here at least, so I won't freeze to death.
It's worth the extra 10 pounds or so. Yeah, it's worth it.
Now, despite Floyd and General Pillow claiming victory and wiring Nashville, says we are successful, you are saved. General Buckner's going, you guys serious? Like you see that the Union has taken our right flank. Like they're in their trenches. They're right there. You understand that this fort, it's gone. We caused some casualties, but we're gone. Like we can't stay here, and now we can't leave because we lost our opportunity. The final Confederate War Council will occur at 1:30 a.m. on the 16th. Buckner says flat out.
All right, so why always 1 a.m.? Like, what's going on here? Like, what?
No battles going on. No fighting. I think it's because, no fighting's going on at 1 o'clock in the morning, and they can...
It's probably also not going on at 9 p.m.
Yeah, and it's now 3 days,
or 10?
Without,
I don't know.
11? It's 3 days now without sleep. But in any case, General Butler lays it out flat. He says, I can only hold for 30 minutes against another C.F. Smith attack. If the Union attacks this right flank, I've got enough munitions and men to support for 30 minutes, and that's it. And he estimates that casualties are going to be in the range of 70% if everybody stays. He goes, this is going to be awful.
That's significant.
So he says flat out, what are we going to do? The decision was to ask for, they're like, yep, all right, we're screwed. We're going to ask for terms of surrender from Grant. But before that, Floyd says, listen, guys, if I get captured, likely I'm going to be arrested and indicted for corruption when I was Secretary of War underneath Buchanan. And I don't want to be arrested beyond just being a POW. I'd go to jail, and I don't want to do that. So
you coward traitor.
So he leaves. He gets up, gets on the rowboat, and leaves. He's like, you're not gonna get one guy.
Oh my guys, I'm out of here. Right down.
So he leaves. So he's gonna leave command.
Got a little lantern on the end of it.
So he leaves command to General Pillow, who also says, I don't. Bye. And he leaves in the morning of the 16th.
Yo, have you seen what I've done so far? I'm the reason we didn't get out. I'm gonna
go ahead and leave on this hole I punched. I'm gonna leave through that hole.
All right, so these Confederate generals are not as loyal or chivalrous or whatever as
both
a pirate or a sailor who will go down captain of their ship.
Both Floyd and Pillow are raked across the coals after the battle, by the Southern press, for being cowards.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. This leaves General Buckner in charge of everything, and General Forrest, Confederate cavalry, Nathan Bedford Forrest, head of the KKK, he's going to yell in the meeting, I did not come here to surrender my command, so he's going to take his ponies and his men, and he's going to go ahead and leave himself, and he escapes in the night, leaving Buckner with no ball to play dodgeball with, all by him lonesome,
and also all his men. All his men. All the men who are like, that's my leader. That's my guy who's going to lead me in a battle. He's going to take care of me. He's going to make sure we do the right thing. And he pieced out at 1:30 in the morning after a meeting about what we're going to do.
Yeah, about surrendering. He's like, I'm not going to surrender. I'm leaving. Which, by the way, like if General Pillow can get himself out, if Floyd can get himself out, and if the entire Forrest's command can get himself and his troops out, like...
Now that third one's the real one.
Why didn't Buckner and them try to leave? Like, it's like, why didn't you guys try
a couple
to leave
people,
too?
A couple people
was
fine.
One thing, but an entire, like...
They're not going to care. But if you get troops out, then follow. Just do that.
Right? do the exact same thing.
Yeah, fall back 50 yards, just whoop, straight ahead. Follow them.
The morning of the 16th, Buckner sends a note to General Ulysses S. Grant asking for a truce in terms of surrender. C.F. Smith is going to get that note first, and he's going to say, and I quote, "No terms to the damned rebels." That a boy, Smith, but he doesn't actually have the authority to make that claim. He's got to take that message and give it to U.S. Grant, who then basically says no terms to the rebels. His response, and I quote, is, "Sir, yours of this date proposing armistice and an appointment of commissioners to settle terms of capitulation is just received. No terms except unconditional and immediate surrender can be accepted. I promise to move immediately upon your works. I am yours, sincerely, very respectfully, your obedient servant, U.S. Grant."
Now that's saying the entire Confederacy, right?
Yeah.
He's saying, all right, if you want to go ahead and surrender.
Donelson, the command of
Fort Donelson. So he's saying unconditional surrender just for
only
them.
Terms are unconditional surrender. You will lay down your arms.
And that's not what they wanted?
Or I think they were hoping for a little bit better terms than that. But they knew the fort was lost. They're going to surrender anyways. But the whole unconditional surrender means, like, you're done. Every one of your people in that fort right now will lay down their arms and surrender, or I'm going to assault it. And this isn't a bluff on Grant's part. Like, it's not like he's like saying, "Oh, I'll kick your ass if you don't do what I say." He was in the prime position to obliterate the rest of that fort. Like, Smith had taken the first line of entrenchments. The fort is all that's left.
Well, and like his general had just said, I can do 30 more minutes against Smith. His section.
And Buckner
30 minutes. And
Buckner flat out, like he admit, like he wasn't over exaggerating the dire state of himself either. He barely had any ammunition left. He barely had the supplies left or the men left to even put up much of the fight. It would have been bad. So so Buckner, faced with no, said, "Well, I was hoping to surrender anyway, so
okay."
And
so now we have more prisoners we got to feed.
Now we have more prisoners we got to feed.
Set up in camps and places. Like, come on. Like, this is... we're going to end up just, like, having everybody in the South in some type of prison camp or something because we're capturing all of them and they won't quit.
Probably.
This is going to be very expensive for us.
That's going to get expensive. Grant, speaking of expenses, Grant is actually going to offer a loan to General Buckner. Says, "Hey, I'll give you some money to see yourself through the end of the war while being in prison camp, out of the goodness of his heart, I guess." And Buckner says, "Nah, it's okay. Like, I'll just, I'm sure you guys are going to feed me, right? Like, why do I need money?"
What? God bless it.
I think it's more like give him a loan.
I don't know what.
I think it's more like I'll give you a loan so that you can make sure your personal finances at home are taken care of while you're in. Because he's not going to get payment from the Confederacy while he's in the POW camp. So any personal financial.
Well, why not? He's done everything that all the other Confederates have done.
No, he got caught. The other ones ran. Remember?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they pieced out, so they're going to keep getting paid.
So, Johnny, we got our aftermath report. Report. Of the 13,846 Confederates engaged, 327 will be killed, 1,127 wounded, 12,932 missing or captured. That's the huge number. This is the largest casualty that we have up to this point for the battle. That's the entire... Put this in perspective. That's the entire army of one of our revolutionary... Like, that's George Washington's army during the Revolutionary War. Like, this is huge numbers that we just captured. Huge numbers, yeah.
That's 75% of their troops, right?
Yeah.
We're more than.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, this is like 90% of their troops, Johnny. This is like when all the casualties added up. This is almost the entire army gone, minus a few that escaped with Forrest.
That ran away.
that ran away. You also have to add in the 48 artillery pieces that were captured, munitions, guns, supplies, and the destruction of the defenses protecting Tennessee. There is nothing now stopping the Union from getting into the middle part of Tennessee.
Yeah, we opened up the floodgates there, essentially.
Opened up floodgates.
Turned that tap, and now it's free travel in.
Free travel in. On our side, on the Union side, 24,531 men will be engaged, 507 killed, 1,976 wounded, and 208 captured or missing. Grant is going to be promoted to Major General of the Army of the Volunteers at this point, of all the volunteers, and reports are made that, like, while he's like unconditionally surrendering Grant, he's got a cigar in his mouth and between his teeth while he's, kicking some ass and taking some names. And the end result of that is like all these like prominent businessmen and politicians start sending cases of cigars to Grant's headquarters. So that's good. Grant is going to get the nickname Unconditional Surrender Grant for his activities here. And this becomes the first major Union victory, really, really major Union victory in the war at this point. Roanoke was huge, but this is like next, like you've got an entire army of the West. To put it in perspective, 75% of Johnston's command is now a POW.
Holy cow. Now, I know we talk a lot about how it's easier to defend than it is to attack and everything else, but again, we lost more killed than the Confederates. I mean, I know this is a victory and everything, but we're losing more men than they are, unless you start doing the captured and all that.
Well, and the percentage of the armies, but it's just a number. So it's a number.
So again, war just comes down to the awful. Oh well, it's just we lost a smaller percentage of actual lives.
People,
whose family are getting letters and phone calls and telegraphs that their loved one has died. But we took over. We have an end to Tennessee now, so we win.
Most
families,
and it will lead very, very quickly within the next couple of weeks. The Union takes control over Nashville, and that.
Spoiler alert! Jesus.
Spoiler alert! Well, yeah. I mean, this isn't the Civil War in hindsight, Johnny. But speaking of Civil War in hindsight, if you enjoy,
so you think I know that?
I know,
Nashville at some point.
I'm sorry, Johnny. But speaking of Civil War in hindsight, if you enjoyed, learning about the Battle of Fort Donelson, check out Civil War in hindsight. We follow the Civil War week to week in real time as it happens, and it's a circus.
That's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and join us next week when we talk about train robbers.